Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive newly announced federal law enforcement takedown that just hit the state of Minnesota. It's a sprawling, highly complex story about vital public safety nets, absolutely staggering financial exploitation, and a brand new national strike force that is stepping in to stop the bleeding. We're going to break down exactly what happened, how these schemes actually worked, and why officials are warning us that this recent bust is just the beginning.
Okay, let's dive into this. $90 million. Take a second to just let that number sink in. That is the massive financial figure representing the taxpayer dollars allegedly stolen in this single sweep of indictments, which they announced at a May 21st press conference in Minneapolis. $90 million, drained directly from public resources.
But here's the crazy part. As shocking as that 90 million figure is, federal officials are warning that the corruption runs much, much deeper. As Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche stated right in the wake of these charges, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Law enforcement firmly believes this isn't some isolated incident. It's a symptom of a massive, systemic exploitation of government assistance programs. So here is our roadmap for today. First, the $90 million takedown. 2, exploiting crucial public programs. 3, the true human cost. 4, a pattern of ongoing fraud. And 5, the nationwide law enforcement crackdown. All right, part 1, the $90 million takedown and those May 2026 charges. Let's look at the core facts here. We've got 15 defendants federally charged in this new indictment, and we aren't just talking about your everyday street-level scammers. These charges are targeting owners of child care centers and multiple Medicaid providers. According to Colin McDonald, the Assistant Attorney General for the National Fraud Enforcement Division, these suspects allegedly pilfered 7 different government benefit programs. As he put it, they literally treated these vital, taxpayer-funded programs as their personal piggy bank. The institutional response to this has been incredibly swift. These charges were brought forward by a highly coordinated strike force. You've got the newly formed DOJ Fraud Division working right alongside the White House's task force to eliminate fraud. Their stated goal? A massive new national push to dismantle illegal schemes from coast to coast, using Minnesota as a major launching point.
Moving to part 2, exploiting crucial public programs and exactly how these budgets ballooned.
The sheer scale of this exploitation is wild. Back in 2020, the Minnesota Housing Stabilization Services Program had an annual budget of $2.5 million. But jumped to 2024, the actual cost exploded to over $104 million. That's an absurd, almost 50 times increase in just 4 years. Federal officials attribute this massive spike entirely to fraud, noting the state actually had to shut the program down because the level of exploitation was just too high. And housing wasn't the only target. Fraudsters also allegedly set their sights on a fund called the Early Intensive Developmental and Behavioral Intervention Program. Now, to understand the gravity of this, you have to know what the program actually does. It provides essential medical services to individuals under 21 with autism spectrum disorder. We're talking about incredibly vulnerable young patients who rely on specialized care. The numbers here are just as staggering. When Minnesota initially rolled out this autism program in 2017, it was supposed to cost $600,000. By 2025, that figure skyrocketed to over $400 million. Officials say this exponential increase wasn't driven by a sudden need for services. It was driven by fraud. In fact, this takedown includes a single $46.6 million scheme, making it the largest Medicaid autism fraud case the DOJ has literally ever charged. Parents were even allegedly paid kickbacks to enroll their children just to fuel the billing. Which brings us to part 3, the true human cost, moving beyond the spreadsheets. You know, it's so easy to get lost in all the millions and billions when we talk about financial crimes. But this level of fraud is absolutely not a victimless crime. Prosecutors allege that the suspects essentially treated disabled people like lottery tickets to just rake in illicit cash. And where did all that stolen taxpayer money go? Officials say it bought real estate, luxury vehicles, and expensive jewelry. But here is the most sobering reality of all. Behind every one of those fraudulent invoices is a real person being denied legitimate help. The DOJ highlighted a truly tragic outcome in these charges. In one case, a client actually died after failing to receive the care that an alleged fraudster had actively billed Medicaid for. They billed the government, abandoned a vulnerable patient, and used the funds to live it up. It's devastating. Let's zoom out a bit for part 4, a pattern of ongoing fraud and the historical context. See, this new $90 million bust didn't just happen in a vacuum. Between 2020 and 2022, massive pandemic relief fraud started rolling in. By 2022, initial charges dropped in the Feeding Our Future scheme, which illegally siphoned $242 million from federal child nutrition programs. Fast forward to May 2026, the mastermind of that scheme, Amy Bach, is sentenced to nearly 42 years in prison. And practically right after that sentencing, boom, this brand new $90 million takedown is announced on May 21st. It's a relentless historical pattern of exploitation. When you look at the broader picture in Minnesota over the last few years, the estimated total of government program fraud rose to an absolutely staggering $9 billion. $9 billion. It was this massive scale of historical fraud that ultimately inspired the nationwide enforcement effort we're seeing right now. Which leads to our final section, Part 5, the nationwide law enforcement crackdown. In response to those billions in estimated losses, the current administration launched what they're calling the most aggressive anti-fraud effort in American history. Specifically, the Trump administration and Vice President J.D. Vance have zeroed in on this, producing 450 fraud enforcement actions nationwide in recent months. To support this massive effort, the team actually added 15 new prosecutors just to handle the sheer volume of these complex cases. And the DOJ's National Fraud Enforcement Division is making a huge public plea directly to citizens. They're urging anyone in Minnesota or across the country to speak up. The message is pretty simple. If you see something that seems too good to be true, report it. They're promising to vigorously pursue these criminals and, quote, claw back every dollar stolen from the American people. The stakes for the whole country really couldn't be higher. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. spoke at the press conference and hit the nail on the head regarding the systemic threat here. He stated, if we fail to confront the fraud aggressively, these programs will not survive for future generations. He emphasized that unchecked fraud drives up healthcare costs, drains resources, and literally threatens the long-term stability of both Medicare and Medicaid. And the message to anyone currently exploiting the system is uncompromising. Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald delivered this dramatic sign-off warning directly to the fraudsters. He said, eat, drink, and be merry today, because your days of frolicking and freedom are numbered. Law enforcement is coming, and they're moving fast. So, that wraps up our explainer for today, but it leaves us with one incredibly crucial question. We've seen a $90 million takedown that officials are calling just the tip of the iceberg. We've seen state estimates reaching $9 billion in total fraud. With so much lost and a massive new national crackdown currently underway, what other icebergs of fraud remain hidden in our vital public systems? It's exactly what investigators are actively trying to answer right now, and for sure, it's a story we will be following. Thanks so much for joining me today.